me just quickly run through how the whole grant structure works for Rotary. And that's not just the structure is part of it, but the most important part is what we actually come up with for ideas. I did run all of the grants for my district in Boston area for 20 years. And during that time, we did almost $7 million in projects. And we've done them in about 62 other countries. So we really were working all around the world doing our district projects. And this basically, there are, you know, the money for grants does not just come from Rotary. It basically comes from Rotarians all over the world, and they contribute to the Rotary Foundation. And it's their contributions to the Rotary Foundation that makes the grant system possible. What does happen, though, is that the Rotary Foundation, which has a lot of money, what you contribute one year does not get spent. It stays in the investment system of Rotary International for 3 years. On the third year, they make that money available for districts and clubs to use. And the idea is the interest on that earned money over 3 years is what pays to run the foundation. So that's the system. People contribute, and then 3 years later, they get to use what they contributed then if they apply for the grants and the grants qualify. But quite frankly, my whole time working with the grants, they never used up all the money, and the unspent money rolled to the next year. And so it was, we got an idea for a project, great, let's do it. And they had to meet the criteria, but that's how the basic system worked. In Rotary, there's a lot of ways of raising money, like the dues and the club operating expenses. And then food for meetings, you spend it on that, and activities and service projects. But clubs, individual clubs should have 3 different bank accounts. One holding its club expenses, the other one holding its projects, club project account, and the other total, and that's for projects that clubs do. And the third account that Rotary clubs need is a project involving district and or global grants, and that's the grant account. And so you have to keep in your club those different accounts totally separate from each other, because when you do a final report on a grant, you don't want to see how much money your club spent on food or how much money you spent on postage or all the other things relating to the operation of the club. That's totally separate from the grant system. So that's how that that system works. The next thing is that Rotary clubs, there are projects that they do, and they involve different levels of money. The first type are projects that you do totally funded within your club itself. Like, for example, our club decided to support a program on pollinating plants or doing things, starting a pollinator garden, and it only needed about $300. That money got the club foundation out of the foundation account said, yeah, we will spend that money on that. And the board of trustees for that foundation said, seems good, let's do it. A Girl Scout got her gold award project, like I don't know, whatever the Boy Scout, award is when you're an Eagle Scout. And they need money for their projects. They come to the Rotary Club tonight. You have some money for doing that. We'll say, yeah, how much do you need? And they have to fill out the application form. And we gave that girl, I think, $300 toward her project for a Girl Scout project in a couple of towns over. And so that's the simple grants that clubs do. Then there are district grants. And those are usually in the range for $1,000 to $3,000. And usually clubs raise about half of that money themselves. When I was the grant chair, clubs would say, gee, we want to do this project. It's going to cost $2,000. And I say, okay, your club is going to have to put up $1,000 and the district will match that for you. And that is really, helpful. They said, super, we can do it. and that they can follow that process. If they take a bigger project like a global grant, they can get money for between $30,000 and $70,000. And that, again, the club usually raises about a third of that amount of money by themselves as a club, or by getting other clubs to join in on their project. If a district grant, one time on a district grant, a club wanted to do a $10,000 project. And I say, well, if you get 10 clubs to join with you, each do $1,000, that'll qualify. So it fit within the district grant system because several clubs got involved and each contributed, $500 toward that project, making a total of 10,000. Rotary also has, and global grants also require involvement with usually another district in another country, not usually, always. You have to have a host club in the project, close to where the project site is. And these are all links on how to do that. And I will send these to you individually at the end, this whole presentation with all these links to connect to. There is also a new thing that just started in Rotary last year, and they did their first one, and I think it is down in Brazil where they did it. And it was called a program of scale grants, and they're for $2 million or more. If you have a huge project you want to take on, and usually, Rotary has only done one so far. They have to be totally approved by the trustees of Rotary International. And generally what gets these large scale grants going is there've been a series of global grants that have showed a lot of positive action and sustainability and good results. And they say, gee, we've done these 7 global grants in this area, and we want to scale it up to cover the whole country. Then here, let's do this, program of scale grant. And lo and behold, Rotary did it. I think there were several other applications that came in that they denied. But here is basically the simple, any quick delineation that you have on any of these sections? Is this totally confusing? Okay, I'll move on quickly to the simple Rotary grants. Generally, they are, like it can be from just $20, and this is all US dollars that I'm talking about. It could be as simple as $20. I need $20 to do this project. Can you help me out? Yeah, and we can say, yeah, it looks like a good community project. Generally, the projects we have to have are involve 7 people or more being involved. For example, the Bedford Rotary Club is doing one this coming Sunday. We're giving out bicycle helmets to the town of Bedford, promoting bike safety, and we're working with the police department and all that. And we purchased a whole lot of bike helmets at a discount. And I think, they were we got them for probably about $20 or $10 each. And we'll probably give out about 60 helmets. And these are just simple clubs. We didn't go through a grant system or anything else, just put it out the way it is. And sometimes on simple projects at the grant level, you'll get neighboring clubs to join in and do those projects with you. And each club can do it. It's interesting. I did something weird with my club. I went back through the history of the Rotary Club of Bedford to about 1971. I could find the records. And during that time, it turned out that our club, I added up all the money that went to project sites, and it totaled over $1 million. So our club became $1 million club when you look at all the work that you put in there. And it's not that we raised $1 million. It's that we went through the grant system. Our very first grant I did back in 1997, I think it was. And actually, no, it was 1993. I went to Nepal, and we had a person who had scoliosis real bad, and he came over. He was a student from Nepal. He came here, and I was asked to bring him back to Nepal. The principal from his school came with him, and she stayed at my house and with my wife and I. And she said, gee, Ralph, why don't you come back to Nepal and we'll make it a full principal exchange. So I agreed, and during my school vacation, took Rajesh home because his surgery was all over and he was now healthy. Bindu had gone home about 3 months earlier. But once I got there, I saw all the needs of their literacy program at her school. And they were just doing straight repetition, memorization and repetition, memorization, repetition. And they spent the whole first year learning the alphabet. Then the next year, learning maybe 15 to 20 words and how to pronounce them. It was really kind of really broken up. And I had done a whole different literacy program. And I said, gee, can I introduce what I had just introduced in my school here? And she said, yes. I went and visited some Rotary clubs and said, would you take on doing a grant? And they said, yes. And I says, okay. And on the way home on the plane, I said, gee, I came up with this great idea for a project in Nepal. And of course, they were all upset that I came back to the club. They said, oh, Ralph's here. Oh, man. But I said, I'd like to do this project. And they said, great. Our club has never done an international project ever before. And so I said, well, it's going to cost $12,000. And they said, oh, how can, he said, well, why don't you find another project? Because we don't have that kind of money. And I said, well, I'll put in $500 out of my own pocket toward the project. Someone said, and this is when the matching grant system was just beginning. Someone said to me, geez, Ralph's so cheap. If he puts in $500, I'll put up $500. I said, oh, great. Someone else said, geez, I've always wanted to do contribute to the Rotary Foundation to a project, but I didn't want to just send it to any old project. But since it's Ralph is going to be doing it, I'll put up $250. And I said, fine. Another guy said, I'll put up $250 if Ralph gets just a one-way ticket back to Nepal, and we'll get him out of the club. We don't want to deal with him anymore. And I said, yeah, that's fine too. And so I said, but that's all we need. And he says, Ralph, you used to be a math teacher. That doesn't add up to any $12,000. I said, no, it adds up to $3,000, $1,500. And I said, isn't our club policy that if we contribute to the Rotary Foundation, the club will match it? And he says, oh, yeah. So what I did, and I said, well, here's how it works. That gives us now $1,500 plus the match from the club makes it $3,000. We take the $3,000 and it goes to our Rotary Foundation and to the Rotary district. And the district then took that $3,000, matched that, and made it $6,000. Then the money went to the Rotary Foundation in Evanston, Illinois, who matched that, and there was the $12,000. So within that one meeting, we literally raised $12,000 for an international project. And that's how it goes. So it started with a simple little, oh, by the way, that project did begin with a $300 grant from the Rotary Club on a district simple grant, because when I asked them what do they need in their school in Nepal, they said the kids need underwear. And so we had an underwear drive in our school, and I needed the money to cover the overweight cost on the plane. And it turned out Thai Airway took it all for nothing. So they gave me through. So now then Rotary came up with another whole grant system called district grants. And these are small size grants, 20% of what comes from the Rotary DDF funds, district designated funds, can be used for use in your own district. That was never before when I started out. And so there's usually in our district probably about $10,000, $12,000 that can be used for this. And this is where we just do the match. But on district grants, they have to meet this criteria, the 7 areas of focus which Rotary began. And they have to deal with the topic of peace building and conflict presentation, disease prevention and treatment, water sanitation and hygiene, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, communication and economic, or community and economic development. And just last year it came in that we have money available through a new category came in called the environment. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. So but these are so general that as the grant coordinator, no matter what, people had an idea for a project. I said, wait a minute, it'll fit, someone will fit in like 3 or 4 of them, but only pick one where it fits the most, because you don't want to write objectives for each category. So that's basically the district grants. And then we work them into sort of a grant format. And I will give you this. This was the old matching grant model that we had, and what was eligible and what was not eligible. And there's a whole lot of them. And, you know, you can't take the money to start your own foundation, you know, but it can go to, we opened a microcredit program in Nepal. That worked great. You can't buy a building. You know, construction does not work, but you can say purchase of land or building. You can't do that, but you can purchase a short-term rent or a lease of a building for, you know, organizing of the startup of a project. So this, and I will send you all this list to work through. They don't want you to get involved with landmine removal. But you can provide funding for assistance for landmine victims, and that's where some of the disability might go into. It's funny, Rotary, they want, when you do a Rotary grant, you have to label everything with a Rotary, you know, logo on it, including like the backpacks I got for the literacy material I gave to teachers to take back to their, you know, their schools, and all the teaching materials that were in those backpacks. So I had to buy label things, but I couldn't use the grant money for that. I had to use separate money from the club to pay for that. So there are some pretty careful restrictions, and look at those real carefully. I did another literacy project in the Philippines, and I sent in, and you have to save every receipt that you do during a grant. You're going to have document every penny all the way through. Even when I rode a rickshaw from the airport to the hotel, or from one side of town to the other side of town, I had to make up a receipt and have the rickshaw driver sign it. And so I put in there, kept a list of all the expenses and all the stuff. And on this, when I did the grant in the Philippines, they said, and I had all the receipts listed, and I saved the receipts here. I still have them. You got to save them for like 7 years. But I sent a list of all the expenses. And it got to Rotary Foundation, and they said, well, we can't fund a portion of your grant. And I said, what? And they said, well, you've listed all these antiques. And I said, oh. And I said, now I see where the problem is. It was all workshops on the island of Antique. And they thought they were antiques that we spent money on, not the location. And once they got that clarified, they said, oh, no problem. But the best part was they caught it. They caught that they went through those expense items line by line to be sure that everything was eligible. So when you're doing a grant, document every penny right from the start, send it in, have someone in your club audit it to be sure your balance comes out close to my balance. And I did it. And I basically started writing the final report on all these projects while I was there. So this is the kind of the criteria that you work on for doing district grants. And it's somewhat the same criteria also for global grants. And there are and those are for the 30,000 bid. For the global grants, now the one thing that's real important on a global grant is you're going to have a needs assessment done at the beginning. They weren't so serious about that at the beginning, but now they are. And so work through that. But again, there are several PDF forms at Rotary International. And again, I'll send you this link to work on. And you don't have to read them all that carefully. If you're going to be the district grant subcommittee chair, yeah, you got to do. And what I did as grant subcommittee chair, I ended up writing most of the grants for the people in the district, because they just never done it before. I said, it's not here. And I gave them like a worksheet that said, fill in this information. I just went online and filled it in for them. Now, here's a problem. Scholarships may not be awarded now because there's a scholarship portion, scholarship supplement within the global grant. There used to be the ambassadorial scholarship program. people could apply for it, and quite a few did. That got discontinued when the global grant system came in. But you can, within the global grants system, do scholarships. But scholarships may not be awarded to Rotarians or to Rotarians' immediate family members. You have to, because we are a service above self organization, and we can't do it to help ourselves individually. However, the Rotaractors may receive a global grant scholarship, and Rotaractors, in fact, a Rotary club can, in fact, beginning on July 1, this coming up, can apply for global grants, district grants, and all the grants right in there. That never could happen before. So that's really worth doing. I'm going to delete this. I mean, go back to, how do I unshare my screen now? Hit what? Share. Stop sharing. Okay, I see. All right. Can you see me again? Okay. Now, that was the quick run through. And now here's what I've begun to come up with. Do you have some questions you want to talk about right now? Everybody's suddenly quiet. Do I have you on mute?
A nice day. I wanted to give them a cool break of water.
Well, I have a question.
See what else there is around here.
Okay. Okay. Anyone have a question? Okay.
I need the documents to understand. I cannot understand fully from your discussion.
I know I talk real quickly, and I'll try, and I apologize for that. I'll be happy to meet with you separately on a Zoom and go over a grant project that you have in mind to help you structure them up. Anybody on this, I just want to give an overview that that's the category. And when I send you this whole list of things, see how your grant will best fit in there. Yeah, I apologize for talking so quickly.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay.
Yes, yeah. Yes, I have just one question about the global grant.
Yep.
So now the main difference between the global grant and district grant is inter-country, yeah?
Yes, you can.
But global, you should have another club in another country, yes?
Yes.
This is correct?
Yeah, when you're doing the global grant, global grants, you must have a club near the project site where you're doing your project, and that club becomes the host club. The club, let's say here in the United States, doing it from my perspective, would be the international partner. And you have to have both district governors sign off and both club presidents sign off.
And now for the host country, the whole money will go to the host country. Yeah, this is correct. But the other country will not get benefit from anything, just to support the host country. This is correct.
Yes, the host country can put in some money. They can put in like almost up to like 40% of the money on the project if they want. So it's not like they can't put in money, but you know, however it best works.
And what about the follow-up? How they can follow up the project?
Okay, when I did my projects, when I had a grant, I wanted to make certain that everybody was fully accountable for that money right along the way. So I wrote into the grant a travel grant, and I actually traveled to Nepal or to the Philippines, Armenia, and worked with those people right on site. And we encourage Rotarians to do that. The whole point of Rotary grants is to promote world peace and understanding. And the more sharing back and forth that we can do, Rotary likes that. So the first time I just paid my own money and went to Nepal on the project. it ended up doing about 3 trips there. I finally put in as a travel grant to go along with the project, and they asked no questions about it. They even gave me the frequent flyer miles, and I thought that was cool.
Now your idea is very clear. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's really a fantastic idea. Yeah, it's complicated, but it's fantastic, and it shows how much the Rotary encourage collaboration between other different countries. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We want that to happen, and I do have to apologize really for talking so quickly. I'm crazy that way because I get so nervous and scared. But if you have a grant in mind, I'll be happy to work with you in filling out the forms and getting it together, and then helping you to arrange with your grant subcommittee chair in your district, because that's the key person you will work with. And they're the ones that work on both district and global grants. And that's,
it will be so kind of you to help us. It'll at least, thank you.
It'll at least get you started. But the easiest one though are just regular club grants and that's where this World Disability Advocacy Club can get involved. We have over 100 Rotarians from I think it's 39 different clubs that are involved with our group here. If we have a project in mind, there's no reason why we can't send a message out to those other 39 clubs. And I think it's 23 different districts, and say, this club has a project in mind, our World Disability Advocacy Club has a project in mind. Can somebody from your club help us out? So by bringing in those other clubs, they can jump in and help us on a particular project that we have going, because they, know about us. They've been getting our weekly newsletter, and they're aware of the kind of things that we have in mind. One thing that I caught on to just last night, I attended an environmental study group that our district had, and we had the past Rotary President Riesling from Australia speaking, and he said, and he was talking about the environmental global warming program of the environmental group that they've got going, and he told about a meeting this morning that I attended in Kuala Lumpur, where they're getting ready for the what's the name of it? I wrote it down for the UK for the climate change conference called COP21, taking place in Glasgow in about 8 weeks. And they had the pre-Rotary meeting and Rotary will have a chair on that table dealing all with global warming. Global warming has a huge impact on people with disabilities. And actually, people with disabilities, especially those in the autistic spectrum, can have a huge impact on some of the solutions. And we would love to bring people with disabilities to give the global warming people some ideas. Well, if we're going to focus on global warming, here's where we can join in and help out too. And if our focus is on inclusion, here we have our chance to really say, even though we have disabilities, we can be included on finding solutions for global warming too. And also, and maybe directly for the needs of other people with disabilities, at least to keep them in the loop, both focused on the global needs as well as the individual needs. And I think that's a real important piece, that we're all working together to save our planet and make life better for all of us. So, and actually, that was one of the questions I put up. They didn't get to my question, but I know my district will take that very seriously, and including my club. Other ideas? Allison, you always have great ideas. I love reading your notes in the WhatsApp. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And the other one is the sports scene. I'm really impressed because sports is something people can really understand, especially dealing with people with disabilities. The Olympics the Paralympics in Japan were just phenomenal, and seeing all that happening. And our member from Brazil that did it, worked all the translation in their country. He was the one that did all the Olympic translation. That's phenomenal stuff. And here we have people involved with our group being part of the disability deal worldwide, and it shows how we can have a huge impact. By the way, we're up to almost 338 members in the group, only 20 in the club, but we can look at the whole group that we're working through on WhatsApp and getting a newsletter to keep good things going. Yeah. Other ideas, again, Jenny, you got a question?
No, sorry.
Yeah, I saw your thing light up a little bit. Okay. What are some ideas you might want to do for a project?
We have here two main ideas. One, to treat impaired sights or decreased visual acuity for blind persons. This is one of our main targets. The second is by telemedicine or something like this. We try to connect the far areas of Egypt together with the central areas. We have underserved areas in the Upper Egypt. And I think that we have a project and feasibility study for connecting them to the central areas. Regarding different disabilities, maybe physiotherapy, because in these areas, no physiotherapist and no physical treatment at all. They have to transport the patients from these far areas to the headquarters. So we have a complete project about that. And the second project, we have a high rate of cataract here in Egypt. And there are a lot of people, they have no money to be treated. So it's very simple operation, but it needs money here. So we may send the statistical proof and a number of patients and ask for global grant there. I think this is the two main ideas here.
I think you're dead on. And then another thing you might want to consider, I've been working at Bedford TV, and we have like an education program where we teach students beginning in grade 3 all the way through high school how to do a video production, how to run the cameras and the sound and all the settings and the script writing and all the stuff related to a television production. It turned out that and the kids take the class, but to do every class at Bedford TV that they're involved with, they have to do a production at the end. And because the production that the kids do are all related to some useful thing within the town of Bedford, that we say, wait a minute, we're going to treat you as professional video people, and we're all professional here at the TV studio. And I says, as a matter of fact, when I used to be school principal, they called me Mr. Hammond. And I says, Katie is the director of our studio here. Michael is the person who is the program director, and I'm here as a volunteer. And we all go by first name. So don't call me Mr. Hammond, call me Ralph. And this is third graders are referring to me as Ralph, and we're all at the same professional level. And I tell those people that we would like to pay you to be here, but we don't have enough money. Those kids I said, we're going to pay you community service credit for working here. and doing this production. And it's based on your time on task and by hours. And if it's real good, we give you extra hours. If it's real lousy, we'll take hours away from you. And so they do their projects, and at the end of the time, they get their community service. When students reach 50 hours of community service, they are allowed to take the production classes for free. But the production classes, they don't just come to take and help with the production. They work specifically as mentors to the younger kids. And so they work as helpers. I can see mentor training program becoming an important value on dealing with bringing a child to school. Well, he can't go to school. Well, we can get a mentor for him to help the teacher with. Teachers don't want to take another child in class because the 20 they already, or the 25 they already have is enough. But if they knew that child was coming, say the child that was blind would need some help, they could have a mentor with them who might have either just graduated or has worked out their schedule to work as their mentor. And they'd all receive the community service program. You may want to consider setting up a global grant of some kind, or just a local grant or club grant, where people from remote areas come in to be trained as mentors for dealing with people with different types of disability, for blind, deaf, or whatever the place where they would need a helper. They would not be the full price, but they would be a mentor who would understand enough about that specific disability to be able to go along and help a third grader, go to school, help a first grader go to school, and serve as their partner. And it could be someone in their same class. As a matter of fact, one year we had one mentor, but it was for the middle school class kids who were ages 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. The mentor we had was a fourth grader. He had 50 hours of community service. He was their mentor. And you know something? Those older kids really appreciated the help from that fourth grader. And that fourth grader now has about 300 hours of community service. But there's a lot of ways that you can build people working with our young kids, working with other students to get through, especially in the sports area. I can see some wonderful things happening there to help people to say, hey, I can help you. I'll be your partner on a basketball team or on a sitting volleyball team. I'll be there with you and work it through. So I think there's a lot of good ways that we can build a partnership, but training opportunities to build these mentors.
Yeah. This is a fantastic idea. You prepared a lot of mentors for future.
Yes.
This is really very intelligent idea.
Well, all grants are designed to be replicated somewhere else, and they're all designed with the idea that it's going to continue. As a matter of fact, when I went to Nepal, I did the training myself the first year. They asked me to come back, and they did all the training. They did it all themselves. All I did was ring the bell to start the whole training program. And then, it was, and a lot of the money for the training was for supplies for teachers, rent for the facility, which we got at a college for not too much, and mostly lunch or supper or whenever all the people were gathered together. When I did a training in Haiti, it turned out, and I always put in for food for all the teachers, because as soon as you say food's available, everybody wants to come to the event. And so in Haiti, we had a lot of teachers show up for the training. And so we had the woman who did all the cooking and preparing. I said, okay, we want 3 meals. And I showed up at 8 in the morning. She said, I got everything ready. She had a big old smile on her face. And she had already fixed breakfast. She had already fixed lunch. She had already fixed dinner. And it was right there. And she says, oh, we only have 1 meal a day in Haiti. So I did breakfast, lunch, and dinner all at the same time. And I go, oh, man. So I had to send her off with another $20 to cook lunch for when we had lunch. So there's a lot of cultural understanding that you got to work on. But the grants can, in fact, be used for food and stuff like that may have nothing to do with it, but write it right in and make it go. Any other ideas you might have? Those are good, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Ralph. Really, you're a treasure of ideas. So you can make a project like that. You can make a treasure of ideas, and each one from a developing country can read more about these fantastic ideas, and they can get benefit from any of these ideas, and discuss which idea will be suit for his country and his community. Thank you
Yeah,
for.
that's exactly what we want to do. It's not my idea, it's your idea. And to be able to translate that information along. There's
Thank you.
there's one important part that you got to keep focused on as you're doing these. When people came to me to say, "Oh, Ralph, can we have some money to do a district grant?" I was like, "Great, what's your idea?" And they tell me, and they'd say, "Well, it doesn't quite fit the criteria, but we talk about it and we get so it does fit the idea, and we create it so we have a real meaningful." I'll be happy to do that with each of you on your projects that you have in mind. Absolutely. Jenny, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Ralph. I have curiosity. I'm new in both area. In this, you mentioned about environment and disability.
Yes.
So how you link with the disability, and we can create a project disability and in environment related link projects. Is there any in your mind? Is there any project going on that we can take as an example?
Actually, yes. The Rotary Club in my district in Sturbridge is doing a community garden, and they're raising food. It deals with planting and sustainability. They got a water storage section. They have some of the raised beds are raised high enough so people with wheelchairs can get at them. Yeah, there's a lot. They have the whole water harvesting system, and just the fact that the disability community is now involved with this community garden. They are saying, "Wait a minute, this person down here needs help. And, we can get food there." You're the ones with the network. You're the ones with the contact to these people, and you can bring them to the garden, and those that can help in different ways, but they are part of the inclusion of the project, and they're involved with it, and they're working side by side with the people that don't have disabilities. But in fact, we all have disabilities, so we begin to understand the real needs that people have. And yeah, the community garden model is a wonderful one.
Okay, thank you. It's a real great idea. Thank you so much.
Oh, wait a minute, and even more. There is the local Bedford in its senior citizen center wants to be able to do exercises in like an exercise court. They have a skateboarding court and basketball court around there, and they're doing a pickleball court. But we want to do something for people with disabilities to include them there as well. So that can fit in, including an ADA compliant walk pathway through the woods, so that they can, come to this recreation center and get involved with what everybody else gets involved with right there next to the senior center. So yeah, there's a lot of wonderful things we can pull off. Okay, I can't pronounce your name. Kalungi.
Rafa, I want to share with you two project. I need. Do you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. We are going to start on project from November. This project we designed for UEFA Foundation for Children. They will support us, but it's a big project. The title of the project, changing lives of children with disadvantage through para-football. We focus on how can para-football can change the lives of children with disadvantage. This is one project, and another project, our Ampuchi football team will participate, want to participate in Asia qualifier, and that's why we are going to start 3-month camp for the Ampuchi football players to develop their skill. I will share with you in details in next after 10 October to 15 October. I will share with you, because we next 10 days we will engage with our some activities. That's why I need a time from you to share with you this this two project I want to share with you in details, that your suggestion will help me to design and develop this project.
I think that's wonderful. Consider this angle. It's not just for people with disabilities. Maybe you can work out a mentor training program for people without disabilities to partner up with them, so that it becomes more inclusive. That you know, we want to get them. I was disappointed that there was so much coverage for the regular Olympics in Tokyo, and it was on about 5 different channels here on TV. For the Paralympics, it was on one channel, and they didn't have the coverage for as many sports as they did for the real Olympics. It's too bad, and it's unfortunate that that happened that way, but I can understand why. But let's raise up the involved. If we're going to be inclusive, we got to include other people, that it's not just for ourselves. And
I will share with you. Because it is disappointed for us. Our National Paralympic Committee is suspended from the IPC, International Paralympic Committee, from 2007. They have no activities. We try to engage them in our first step when we start CP football coaches course at 2018. But now they are separate. We are going to we are continuing our program with Bangladesh Football Federation right now. We are trying to engage some persons, organizations with our movement, para football movement in Bangladesh. So I want to share with you in details in those 2 projects that we are going to start from the next month.
I do have to say that in the United States, there are more TV commercials that involve people with a disability than ever before. And I'm thrilled to see that beginning to happen, whether it's a spin-off from the Paralympics or whatever else it is. But even our group, we're growing at the rate of 2.5 members per day, just keeping up on our mailing list. We're at 338 right now, and there's 2 others I haven't transferred in that were online today coming through. So I think we're building our group, not just the club, but the group, the whole group, because I look on it as our whole group, and what we're sharing on WhatsApp as very super duper stuff. And we got to bring that all right in. So yeah, I really thank you on that. And so let's think how we can build a mentor program and whatever else. Okay, Maureen, you have a question. Maureen, you're on. Yeah, can you unmute? Good.
Yes, I have a question and some idea also. I was asking because I have an idea for sitting volleyball in Uganda, to see that we have sitting volleyball from the grassroots, and to see that women with disability are involved into sitting volleyball. And my question was, we who have no clubs in our country, can we apply for those grants? If yes, I have an idea, because you say that the current Paralympics, you didn't see the coverage whereby they are covering the Olympics, but after the Olympics, there was only one TV covering Paralympics. And I think the only way we can do it to see that we attract TV or media coverage is like involving these people without disabilities to be part of us.
Yep.
For example, I'm saying like when we do, like for example, if we do sitting volleyball and we put competitions between people with disabilities and those without disability, you know, there is a way it can attract people to watch such a game.
I think that's absolutely. I did, by the way, get to see sitting volleyball. I didn't even know what it was until I saw the Olympic coverage of it. What a powerful sport. And the fact that there were people involved that didn't need to be sitting. I mean, when they took a break, they just got up and walked off the court, but yet they were still able to participate because of, you know, some criteria that was established. But yeah, I could see regular gym classes in the public schools holding sitting volleyball. You know, they all go out and play regular volleyball, but why not? Okay, this week we're going to do sitting volleyball so that we can build the idea of an appreciation of those who can't stand up and play volleyball, but can in fact be as actively involved with volleyball as anyone else. And that's the mission we really want to get across. That is great. Thank you for sharing that. Jenny, you have a question. Jenny, you got to unmute yourself if you're still there. Jenny's on her iPhone, so it may be a problem. Jenny?
Sorry, I lost you. My network went off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm back. Are you hearing me?
Yes. Go ahead, Maureen.
Yeah, I was saying the way we can have, for example, if we, for example, sitting volleyball, I'm looking at if we do a tournament, we can have a tournament for persons with disability and competing with those without disability, but still doing the same game, sitting volleyball. You know, it can be a competitive activity, but again, attracting audience. And I know if we do such things, that's when we can attract people and media coverage. Yeah. And maybe you can answer my question first, that can we apply or are we eligible?
Yes, okay. You are eligible. You have to work with your local Rotary club, and we can find the club that's closest to where you live to consider taking on this project. Or we can, through the World Disability Advisory Club, advertise to other clubs that you have some an idea going along, and we could say, we have this project going on, we need money. But it would be good for you to show how you're doing inclusion by getting people with disabilities playing sitting volleyball with people with non-disabilities. I think that's a wonderful example. This is great. Yeah, let's talk more offline and through email. I'd love to work this through with you, Maureen. I think you're on the good stuff. Jenny, I still haven't got to you.
I think Jenny already asked her question. Her hand's up from when she asked before.
Okay. Oh, Allison, thank you. I used to be the director of computer education in Bedford, but that was back in the 1980s, and things have changed a little bit since then. Sorry, I'm not too good on this technology.
No problem. It's I'm sitting in front of 3 screens, but I have a really hard time processing when there's a lot of background noise. So when people aren't muted on these calls, that's why I don't speak up. So
Go ahead.
Thanks, Ralph. No, I didn't have a question. I just know that you've mentioned me a couple times, so.
Well, I really admire what you're doing, and I'd love to keep you right in the loop on how this thing is going. Maybe even to manage the what I can't do with technology. I have a disability when it comes to technology. I think once you get old like me, if you get all these, you need young people like you guys.
So Ralph,
yes.
Maybe to help people focus what grants they might want to apply for, how much of those local grants that people are thinking of how much of it does it have to align with the kind of 6 or 7, and Rotary kind of cause areas, promoting peace, fighting disease, clean water, women and children.
7 areas of focus, or whatever number there is. They actually, a club raises money, and they can spend their own money on however they see fit. And I think they have to shy away from, well, it's going to just help our club only, because that's not, we're a community service organization, and it's what we can do for other people. That has to be the #1 priority. And but as long as it's not helping themselves and how we can get richer or a person's own. Oh, that's another point in a club. If you've got a business and you want to do a grant to improve your personal business, that's an absolute no-no. But if you have a business that is related to what you're distributing or your contribution to the community, you can be involved, but you have to very carefully delineate what would be your contribution from your business to the project, but not what from the project will be going toward your business. And that has to be done, but it happens all the time. And there are people that have skills in businesses, as I had skills as an educator. It didn't advance me in my role as principal. I'd already retired. And so I could use my principling skills for that. But absolutely, a Rotary project, a club-funded project, can be on whatever they want to contribute it to, as long as the support for the community is right there. And the community can be their own town or anywhere other town in the world, whatever they want to do. Generally, it has to be more than just for one person. But that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are good. We're about up on our almost hour, so I don't want to tie everybody up. But I think you all have my email. It comes out on the newsletter every week. Please send me a note sharing your ideas. I'm not too good on WhatsApp, and as you can see, my responses are never very good. I love WhatsApp, by the way. I'm really keeping up with what's going on. But your personal sharing is what really has been most helpful for me. And then we can do it. Because I'm shy. I don't like talking to the whole world at once. So you can see, here I am talking to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 10 of us online here. This is really cool. I really appreciate it. Anything else? Richard, you've been real quiet over there. Farhana, you've been quiet too.
Yes, I've been quiet, Ralph. I need to connect with you. I'm thinking about you in the background, like how do I get you? And Ken, of course, and 3 of us, and Ken, and maybe others, and talk about these grants more, at least more, and kind of come up with a plan, action plan, or a plan, get plan on how we can get these grants going for people, other people in Africa or around the world.
Yeah, you got a good point, Richard, and grants are not eligible for automobile accidents. So we understand that you're busy driving.
Yes.
You're on your own if you crash.
Yes, I'm on my own. I know that.
Okay, but we'll cover you on a project though.
Sounds
Anybody
good.
else? Dr. Farhana, you had a question. Yes?
The thing is, will the grants cover if education schools project on children with disability?
Absolutely. And I think it's because inclusion is such a big deal in Rotary. I think that any project dealing with education for building the concept of inclusion, which is a two-way street. There's one, the person with disability going into the school, but the people into the school to understand the part of the disability. That's where the real focus is. And I think the more projects that we can do to build that up, the better we can be. Yeah, because that's where the human rights are getting. It's not like, all right, I'm coming and you better include me. No, it's like, hey, we want you in here to be part of what we're doing. We can use you. And that's why when we play basketball, the person with a real disability says, you know, and this is when I had kids with disabilities in my class. I says, hey, now listen, if Alfred scores a basket, he gets 10 points for his basket. If everybody else in the club only get 2. So, you know, there are deals here that they wanted to give Alfred a chance to get a shot at the basket, not run around him and leave him out. So that's what the whole thing is about. Any other comments? We're about wrapping up on our time. But yeah, let's absolutely keep in touch, because I think we have you got to keep in mind, this whole thing began in March. And in March, there were just 2 people involved with this whole project, Ken Masson and myself. And then it grew to Jeremy up in, it was Mark up in Canada, who was blind, and Jeremy in South Africa, who was, just the opposite around. Jeremy in South Africa that was blind, and Mark Wafer up in Canada that was deaf. And the 4 of us got this idea going. We said, well, maybe somebody else can get in, and they connected with friends, and we connected with friends. And now we're only, what, 7 months in, and we're now up to over 300, almost 400 people we're coming up on. So there's a lot of people getting behind this momentum. The advertisements on our TV, at least here in America, in the United States, are showing, as partly a spinoff from the Paralympics, are really showing the inclusion aspect of what we're doing. And that's the whole mission of Rotary worldwide right now too. So we're the right people in the right place doing the right thing. And you people are the working force. So you keep up the good ideas that you're having, and let's make some good things. And they might be real simple grants, but let's get them out there so the rest of the world can see them. And if it deals with the big movement of Rotary on this environmental stuff, boy, I think we got a huge part going. So let's keep these links in. And the sports is really the best part to pull in, because people understand the sports, and they understand that a little tiny adjustment. You don't all have to go out and be the best basketball player in the world. You can have a position right in there and feel part of it. Matter of fact, when I had a blind kid in my class, he was playing football with he was not your soccer football, the real football where you bump into each other. He was good at it. Man, he could block everybody out. Everybody wanted to get out of his way. And unfortunately, he sometimes blocked out the wrong guy on the wrong team. But that was okay. We got it along great. So we want everybody doing something good. Okay. Any other quick questions before we wrap up? Okay, you all have my email address. Don't hesitate to write, and I'll keep you posted, and keep those postings going on WhatsApp, because that's where the rest of the world gets to see the pieces too. And I basically, to do the weekly newsletter, I take the stuff from the WhatsApp and put that in there. And that's where one country can learn what other countries are doing. And quite frankly, every country is doing, in my estimation, better than what we're doing here in the United States. And even better, you know something? In America, I shouldn't be saying this. They've started this whole thing where we're testing all the kids in every school at every level, called MCAS. And teachers don't want a kid with disability coming into their class because it will lower their test scores. And when it lowers their test scores, then they get criticized as a teacher. And that is totally contrary to inclusion. If the idea that you're all working together as a team, you can do some really super stuff. So I'm impressed. I thank Ken for what he's got going. And I'm thrilled that all of you have joined in and carrying some good thoughts happening. So keep up the good work. And from what I learned when I went to Nepal, namaste. And it kind of means the gods in me recognize the gods in you. I wasn't able to use God as a public school teacher. So we just called it the goodness in me recognizes the goodness in you. So namaste to all of you and keep up the good work.